Hello storytellers and welcome. I'm Lex Lank and this is Creator's Cut. So have you ever had a time where you were really looking forward to something, really excited about it, and then suddenly all the pressures of life just came in at once and you felt crushed and then depressed? Well, I experienced one of those, a few of those days recently. If you've watched previous episodes of Creator's Cut, I believe it was episode 3 that I actually went and talked about the writing depression that I had been in for years when I was self-publishing. But this was a little bit of a different depression. It was more personal, you could say. There's a lot going on right now. Short backstory. I had a particular day I was really looking forward to. It was a milestone, so to speak. I won't go into what, just a personal milestone that I had been really looking forward to for like months. And we were going away and just spending time like vacationing and whatnot to celebrate this particular thing. The day that we left, I was doing okay, but just life has a way of putting its pressures on you. There's a lot going on right now. Personally, I am still healing from my injury that I experienced back in October that I believe I talked about in the 2025 episode. It's a foot injury. It's taken a while. I have a close family member that is about to have a major surgery. On top of those things, I have the professional pressures that I put on myself, deadlines for the project that I'm currently working on and wanting to query and get ready and all those things. So a few pressures here. It's a lot at once. And when we went away to celebrate this milestone, it was a big depression all of a sudden. A big depression all of a sudden. You have those times in life where just everything feels like too much. And you want to be excited, you want to be happy, you want to have fun with what you're doing, but for some reason, and it's usually these stressors that cause it, you all of a sudden just cannot get out of this funk, so to speak. You can't get out of this feeling of hopelessness and frustration and just depression. And I had, again, dealt with this years ago, professionally and personally, on a more clinical level. And I think everyone deals with depression at some point, whether clinical or not. I'm not a doctor, but just in general, I think all people deal with depression. It's something that we unfortunately encounter throughout our lives at some point, and for some people, it can get really, really, really bad, to where there are other medical issues, and then for some people, it is literally just that hanging feeling. Depression is like a demon that just attaches to you and just drags you down and just eats all of your terrible emotions that you're experiencing, that it pushes on you. It literally feels like that. It's terrible. But we all experience that at some point. We all experience that feeling of hopelessness and I don't know why I'm trying, nothing's working. And even just beyond nothing's working, like professionally, just personally, you end up feeling very, very down, very, very much like nothing good is ever going to happen, and like you don't even get out of bed. You're just tired. I'm just here. I'm just trying to function. I don't feel any happiness. I don't feel any hope. I don't feel anything good, right? You just feel that heavy oppression, like you have a cloud sitting on you, a giant storm cloud sitting on you, a hurricane sitting on you, a terrible hurricane sitting on you constantly, and all this pressure. That's what I was feeling when we went away, and I tried to have fun, and I did have fun regardless. I worked through it as best I could, and I was there with my mom and my best friend. We kind of got together to do the vacation thing and the celebration thing, and we did some fun things, and we had a good time. I wish I had been able to not be in that space, but they were very understanding and very helpful to try and pull me out of it. And I am feeling much better now, thank God. But I wanted to talk about that because it does bleed over into my creative life too. And if you are experiencing something similar into your creative life and personal life and work life and life in general, I look at dealing with depression over so many years prior, and I won't say being cured of it, because again, I think we all encounter it at different times. I do think that, you learn different tools and you have different things that help you, whatever it might be, to work through it. I won't say get over it faster, but get through those periods more quickly and more efficiently. And I do believe that you can definitely be healed from it, delivered from it, whatever you want to, however you want to put it. Because I know in my personal life, even though I still have bouts of that now, it has gotten so much better. And I look back on what I had dealt with prior, and I honestly don't even recognize that person anymore. Like, I know it was me. I know I went through it. I remember going through it on a very continual basis. And I know it happened and I remember it and I remember what it felt like, but it does feel like a completely separate person, a completely separate universe, so to speak. I know that was me, but I don't feel like it was me. And I'm very grateful not to be in that place anymore through getting help from counseling and, family members and just other things, personally. But I wanted to talk about it a little bit on a more professional level, creative level, and just kind of, I think the thing that has helped me the most that I had to exercise most recently when I was dealing with this. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is not a cure-all. This is not a, hey, oh, you do this and it's going to be suddenly gone and it's so easy to get rid of, because it's not. It's a battle, which I will talk about in more depth, but this is not a quick fix. I'm not saying that. I'm just hoping that me sharing a little bit of my thoughts will help other people who might be experiencing this, either creatively, professionally, personally, whatever it is. There's no shame here. We all deal with depression, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It is something to work through and something to reach out to other people to help you through. But it's not anything to be ashamed of. There's not anything wrong with you. You're not broken. I absolutely understand what that's like. And no judgment here, because it is something that, again, I think we all experience to some degree, and some of us experience to a larger degree. And that doesn't mean you're broken. It just means that you are human and things do happen. So to start, I think the best way to approach this subject is to talk a little bit about how I view depression and sort of what triggers it, at least for me. I do think this is probably a universal thing, but again, I can only speak from personal experience. I look at depression as a lack of confidence. I think for me that was the biggest thing, is trying to figure out what this is. Because we just say depression and we think like, oh, it's that gloomy feeling that makes people not want to get out of bed. And that is true, but what is it really? Like, where does it stem from? Again, I'm not a doctor, but for me personally, thinking about it, from what I've experienced and thinking, where's this coming from? I realized, for me at least, it was a lack of confidence. Because what makes you depressed? You lack confidence in something, but a lack of confidence means that you feel like there's no way out, that there's no way forward, that there's no hope again, and I will get back to that. Because what it really is, a lack of confidence, but a fear. If you don't have confidence in something, you fear the worst outcome. You fear that the worst thing is going to happen. You fear that nothing is good. The lack of confidence is actually a fear. And I'm not talking the survival instinct part of fear, because fear is an emotion. It has its place. It has its use. But this kind of fear is the fear that eats you. The fear that says everything is hopeless, everything is worthless. The lack of confidence is really fear in disguise. And I believe that, fear is really a lack of hope. So they go from one to the other. All these emotions are tied to each other. When you fear something, you don't have hope that the opposite is true. So in my personal life, or in my professional life, speaking of my writing, depression from years ago, I had a lack of confidence in my writing and where it was going and if it could do anything. And that was the fear that it's not going to do anything, that it's not going to move forward. I'm never going to get where I want to go. I'm never going to get an audience, all of those things. Nobody's going to like my writing. Nobody's going to understand what I'm trying to say. That was fear. The lack of confidence was fear. But the fear was a lack of hope that the opposite would be true. A lack of hope that, hey, all of these things are possible. All of these things are going to happen. I am going to find my audience, or my audience is going to find me. There is an audience. The fear was the lack of hope that that was true. And all of those things work together to eat up, ultimately, I think your lack of hope is a lack of love. And before you go, well, that doesn't make any sense, Lex. Let me explain just a tiny bit. Going back to what I talked about in episode 6 of Creator's Cut, a small recap, I was talking about the challenges that we encounter when we begin something, and how when we encounter challenges, in order to move forward, we have to make the decision over and over again not to give up, and how that actually builds up your love for whatever you're doing. Small recap there. But I honestly believe that dealing with depression is very similar. Not saying it's exactly the same thing, but very similar. Because ultimately, a lack of hope is a lack of love. In the case that I don't look at love as an emotion necessarily. And I'm not saying there's not an emotional aspect. Obviously, people think of love as just romantic and all those floaty feelings and attraction and whatnot, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're talking about love and it's an emotion, sure, that's connected. That is what it would be. But I don't look at love ultimately as an emotion, because love is difficult. As I talked about in episode 6, making all of those decisions over and over again to continue when you encounter challenges, and that building your love for what you're doing, love comes with a cost. And coming with a cost means that love is a choice, ultimately. When you choose to do something, when you choose to put your mind to something, when you choose to believe in something, it is a choice. And you have to make those choices over and over again. So I don't look at love as just an emotion, because if that was true, then, well, the moment that something comes along that challenges that emotion, the love would disappear. Life is not easy. There are so many challenges, there are so many negative emotions, there are so many things that happen to us, that if love was just an emotion and wasn't backed by any choices, any continuous choices, then it would evaporate. It would be very shaky, it would be very fickle, because emotions are fickle. They can come and go. Sometimes, a lot of the time, what you believe and what you feel are not the same thing. So if love was just an emotion, it would be a mess. Because in life, the expression of love is always a choice. If it was easy, then we wouldn't have to make all of those decisions. But let's be honest, sometimes people are hard to love. Sometimes situations are hard to love. Sometimes you really want to give up on whatever it is. Sometimes you really want to give up on yourself, coming back to the depression. Sometimes you want to give up on yourself. You don't want to love yourself. You don't want to love the situation that you're in. You don't want to love the challenge. You don't want to continue to put effort in when everything feels hopeless. But that love is there to say, no, I'm not going to give up. No, I don't actually believe that. And that's ultimately what I come back to every time I am dealing with depression. Or even challenges, as I talked about in episode 6. Every time I come up against a wall, I have to stop and go, okay, this is what I'm feeling. And in this case, I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling like everything is just terrible. Everything is just dark. And every time I feel that, I have to tell myself, okay, is this feeling, is this thought that I'm having, thought, feeling, whichever it is, both together, is this thought and or feeling what I really believe? Because what you believe is backed by your choices. It is backed by your love for that belief. And you choose it again and again. you choose to stay with it again and again. Belief is anathema to depression because it's the opposite of all the things that depression causes you to lack. It's the opposite of, I don't have confidence in that. It's the opposite of, I'm afraid of that. It's the opposite of, I don't have hope for that. And it's the opposite of, I don't want to choose to love that because it's hard. Belief is ultimately what sustains us. It is the core of you as a person, and it can be very difficult to cling to. I'm not saying it's easy, absolutely not. It is very difficult to be in the darkest place possible, or what feels like the darkest place possible, and tell yourself, I know how I feel, I know what I'm thinking right now, I know it's pressing down on me, but I don't believe that. And a lot of the time you have to do it over and over and over again, and it is a constant battle sometimes, and it is difficult, and it is not an immediate change. When I was feeling very depressed a few days ago, I had to continuously tell myself this as we were going places, as we were talking, as we were at restaurants, as we were supposed to be having fun, and as I was having some fun while trying to deal with that and keep it at bay. I had to continuously tell myself, this is not what I believe. I know it's what it looks like. I know it's what it seems like. I know it's what my emotions are trying to tell me. I know what it's what that clinging demon is trying to say. But that's not what I believe. Ultimately, holding to your beliefs, whatever they may be, I think is the best way to combat that depression. And again, I'm not saying it is a quick fix, because it's not. It takes a lot of effort to continuously tell yourself this, and to continuously make the choice to continue to believe what you believe, and to continue to say, all right, regardless of this emotion, I'm going to cling to this, however long it takes for me to get back to where I need to be, or at least closer to where I need to be, however long it takes for depression to back off. Going back to episode 6 one more time, I talked about the need for conviction in whatever you're doing. When you're doing something, you need to have the conviction that this is what I need to be doing, and that helps you to move forward and to continue to make those choices, even when things are hard, to not give up. It's the same here. I believe that belief itself is conviction. When you believe something strong enough, when it's one of your core beliefs, and you know that this is true, regardless of how you're feeling, that's a conviction. And that's something that you really have to hold to when you are experiencing depression of any kind. Your belief is what anchors you in those darkest moments. It's, the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the constant in your life. Your belief is the core of who you are. And I think reminding yourself of that again and again, and learning to remind yourself of that every time you come up against depression or those negative feelings, is a challenging thing to train yourself to do, but it is also very worthwhile. Because I know for myself, I think that was, hey, family helped, therapy helped, all that helped. It was, good things, but reminding myself what I believed continuously and clinging to those beliefs, and just learning to go, okay, that's not, the emotion is not what I believe. The emotion is not my core, right? The emotion is the fluctuating thing. It's not who I am. Was really what helped me get through my depression in the first place, and what helps me get through it now when I have those bouts. Whatever you happen to believe is what drives you forward, and it is what reminds you of who you are in the end, not this false version of you that is down in the dark, because that's not the real you. It's not. It might feel like it. You might be tempted to say, oh, I'm a depressed person, and that's your label, that's just me, I'm depression. No, you're not. It is something that you experience, but it's not you. It's not you as a person. It's not your core, it's not your soul, it's not any of that. It is something that happens to you. It is something that you have to deal with, that a lot of people have to deal with, but it's not you. It is merely a facet of life. And I don't say merely to downplay it. I'm not trying to do that. But I just want to remind you that you are not depression. You are not your emotions. You are not those negative thoughts. You're not any of that. You are a wonderful person who was created with a purpose, who has a future, and is not this negative set of emotions, this disordered. You're not any of that. That is something you might be going through, but that is not the core of who you are. And that's why you should not be giving up on yourself. This too shall pass. This too shall get better. It might not feel like it at the moment. It might feel the furthest thing from it. It might feel like nothing is going anywhere ever. You might be in the darkest place in the world. And I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally. But that is not you. That is a moment in time. That is a difficulty that you're going through. That is a challenge. But it is not you as a person. That's not what you're made for. That's not who you are. So the next time you encounter depression, or if you are currently going through something, I hope that you will take a moment, and continuous moments if you need to, every day, all day if you need to. If you need to write yourself a reminder, if you need to put it on your phone, if you need to say it to yourself over and over again, whatever it takes, remind yourself that what I believe is stronger than my emotions. What I believe is stronger than this depression. Take what you believe, whatever it is, and put it at the forefront of your mind. Every time that you encounter any negative emotion, any time that you encounter depression. It's going to take time to have this become a habit. And even when it does, it's not going to be a switch flip like it's automatically gone. No, it is a challenge. It is a fight, but you are worth fighting for. Whatever you're working on is worth fighting for. Whoever's in your life is worth fighting for. Whatever you believe is worth fighting for. And it's hard, yes. I remember back in the day when I was going through that really bad depression, I had another friend who was also experiencing a very similar thing, and we had a discussion about this, the different things that I was learning and that were helping me. And I remember this particular person saying, well, it's not as easy for everyone as it is for you. And when they said that, I remember just I think my mouth fell open a little bit. I didn't really know how to respond to that because my thought was, it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It's absolutely not easy. I was fighting so hard, tooth and nail, literally feeling like I was holding on by, the skin of my teeth, so to speak. It was not easy. It would have been easier to give up. Giving up is way easier. It's hard in one way, but it's way easier at the end of the day than saying, no, I want to keep going. I want to keep fighting. Depression feeds on all of your negative emotions. It munches on them constantly. So for you to say, I want to give up, it's going to go, oh, great, cool. That's good news for me. And it's not going to ask you over and over again, do you want to give up? Do you want to give up? Do you want to give up? Because you already did. It's way easier to just keep chewing on you after that. It's when you say, I don't want to give up, and I want to keep going, and I want to keep fighting, that it fights back. And that's when you have to say over and over and over and over again, make those choices over again, to go, no, I don't want to give up. And that's a lot harder than only having to make the choice once to say, I quit. And I'm not trying to get on to anyone. I really am not. I get it. We all deal with this, and I've been in the middle of the darkest place possible. And so I know how it feels to want to say I give up, because it is a lot easier. It feels, as bad as it feels a lot better, even though that sounds strange. It feels a lot better to just say, oh, this is how I feel, and I can't deal with it. I can't get over it. I can't get out of it. It's a lot easier to say that. And it feels terrible to be there, but it also feels nicer than fighting, than being even more exhausted than you already are. But it's not worth it. It's not worth giving up, because you're always going to stay there. Actually, you're going to go to the worst place. It's just going to continue to drag you down. And even though that feels nice in one way, because you're not having to struggle as much, it feels awful at the same time, and it's not where you're meant to be. Again, there is a wonderful plan for your life, and you are here for a reason. So do not give up. Choose to keep fighting. Because finding out what that reason is and keeping going is worth all of those struggles, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. You have to find what you believe. You really have to find the core of what you believe. Those core beliefs are the anchor. So find out what you believe, whatever it is, so that you can anchor yourself. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing and why you believe that you should be doing it and why you believe that you're here. And me personally, being a Christian person, I believe in Jesus. That's my ultimate belief. That's my ultimate reason for everything. But I also believe in myself, because of that. I believe I'm here for a specific reason. It fuels everything that I do. That belief fuels everything that I do. God fuels everything that I do. And that means I know who I am, and I can be reminded of it when I experience those moments of deep depression. I can say, no, that's not true. I know that's not true. That's not what God says. That's not what I believe. That's not even, what my friends and family say. I know all of those things. It's my core belief, and I've built it up over time, and it's deepened over time. And because it's deepened over time and I remind myself of it regularly, and I get reminded of it regularly, it is far easier to deal with depression when it does come, because I can go, nope, that's not the thing that I believe. It looks like it right now because I'm in my emotions, but it's not actually what I believe. It's not the core of who I am. And that makes it a lot easier when I am dealing with, again, depression of any kind, but especially creatively. Because creativity can be up and down. Absolutely. It can be up and down. Some days you can feel really invested. Oh, this is going great. This is wonderful. And then the next day you can be like, is this going okay? Should I be doing this? Momentarily, again, in your emotions, the depression can be pulling at you saying, oh, should you really be writing that story? Is there really anything going to come out of it? Why don't you just quit? It's never going to get published. Why don't you just quit? But that's a lie. I know that's a lie. You might feel it in the moment, but it doesn't align with what you actually believe. And that's when you have to go, no. You might have to go, no, again and again. You might have to pick up a sword and just chop depression to pieces. I would love to do that in reality. And in physical reality, I would love to do that. But emotionally, you might have to do that again and again until it becomes second nature. And even again, you still have to make those decisions. You still have to fight. You still have to prove your love for what you're doing and for yourself. But it becomes far easier creatively when you have those core beliefs to back not only you on the good days, but on the bad days, when you are encountering all of those doubts. So I say all of that to say, if you are experiencing depression of any kind, please, again, do not give up on yourself. You are definitely worth fighting for. Absolutely. There is a reason you're here. There is a plan for you. It is all good things. It is worth putting in the time to train your brain to say, no, that's not what I believe. And it's worth putting in the effort to fight for yourself, to make your decisions, not just let your emotions rule you, not just let depression rule you, again and again, to keep continuing to fight. And I know it's hard. I absolutely know. I see you. I do. But don't not give up. There are good things in store, even if it doesn't look like it right now. For a little less heavy aspect of this video, another thing that definitely helps me when I am experiencing those lows is to continue working. As counterintuitive as that sounds, I find that I am a much nicer person when I am working. Not that I think I'm a mean person otherwise, but I don't know, you'll have to ask my friends on that one. I'm pretty sure they think I'm nice. But I know I'm definitely a happier person when I am working, which again sounds counterintuitive because when I am feeling depressed, I kind of don't feel like working. It feels like the last thing I want to do. But conversely, when I actually start working, I find that I am less depressed. It helps pull me out of that dark space. And again, I think even just working helps remind me of what I believe and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So if you are experiencing a depression, especially a creative one, continue to work. Be nice to yourself. You know, don't be too hard on yourself as you're going through the process of doing whatever you're doing, but continue to work. It will help pull you back to that happy space, back to yourself, back to why you're doing what you're doing, and back to that creative place. It might take a little while, but beginning is always better than staying stagnant. So thank you for watching. This has been episode 8 of Creator's Cut. I appreciate you all, and I hope that this was helpful in some way. Again, if you're fighting, keep fighting. I believe in you. Also, an announcement. I have been doing these episodes about once a week since I started my YouTube channel back in December of 2025. And I'm actually going to be cutting back to doing them every 2 weeks until further notice because I have an edit to do. I'm working on the edit for my fantasy project and it's going well and I'm enjoying it despite any ill feelings that I had recently. But I do have a deadline that I have set for myself for this, so I need to put as much effort and time into it as possible. I do want to continue these videos because I am enjoying them and I hope you guys are too, but I am going to be cutting back just a little bit for right now until this edit is done and my query letter is done and all the package of things for querying and presenting and all of that are finished. So for right now, there will be an episode every 2 weeks. So I will see you in the next episode and I hope you look forward to it just like I do. Thank you.